that inflation risk is the uncertainty of economic results caused by potential changes in the value potential changes in the value of a commodity, of a currency. I can say of a currency, not of a commodity. That is inflation risk. So we continue and say asset prices reflect expected inflation. Inflation rates. So commodities tend to provide protection in two specific ways. So that's what we need to identify. Commodities provide protection in two ways. Put a semicolon like that. The first way, we can say commodities are positively correlated. Correlated with inflation. So that means the moment you include commodities in a portfolio of asset classes, then it will tend to reduce the component of risk like that. And we are looking at this side over here with how much we are concentrating on the risk component or exposures towards risk. Notice we're talking about inflation risk like that. So when you include commodities in a portfolio, since you are saying that they are positively correlated with inflation, what happens is that including commodities will tend to reduce your exposure towards the risk, the inflation risk component like that. So that is what we are saying. It provides protection. The second way is that commodity prices represent value of consumption. So we are saying that it is probably is to a great extent based on the forces of demand and supply. We are dealing with physical commodities, for example, wheat, barley, like that. It is expected that they are going to be consumed in future, and hence we are saying that commodity prices represent value for consumption. How much am I paying so that I can be able to purchase maybe say a given commodity like that? So we are saying that inflation, this subtopic of inflation diversification, asset prices being reflected, rather asset prices, we are saying that reflect expected inflation rates. What are we expecting the inflation rates to be in future? So we are saying that commodity prices being a representation of values of consumption would be useful, especially when you try to seek exposure towards commodities with the intention of trying to reduce exposures towards risk, particularly inflation risk there. Now, having looked at that, we can now move on and look at something else. We can look at commodity futures, commodity investing without futures. There are three principal components. We are saying there is physical commodities, there is commodity-related equity investments, and there is exchange-traded funds. This is a particularly interesting area because we do not have this kind of investing in commodities. We don't even have a commodities market. Yes, okay, we may have a commodities market, and in the form of East Africa Tea Trade Association. That association deals with physical commodities, but they don't practice this commodity investing. It is pretty complex and for our market over here, but it is hoped that we can be able to have this kind of commodity investing methods there. So we say commodity investing, investing without futures. Without futures. So we are not going to use any form of derivatives for commodity investing. What we are going to do, we just want to physically purchase the commodity. If it's barley, if it's wheat, if it's copper, if it's gold, like that, we can be able to seek exposure to commodities without the use of futures by, number one, physical, we've written over here, physical commodities. Number one, physical commodities. So what you do is that you just go ahead and purchase a physical commodity, wherever it is actually being mined, if it's being grown, you just go and buy the physical commodity, and you'll be able to have exposure towards commodities. The second way of how you can be able to seek or perform commodity investing is, we have written it over there, commodity equity investments. Commodity related equity investments. Commodity related equity investments. Now, these commodity equity investments is that you can be able to get exposure towards the equities. Yeah, you can, if for example, this is a company, or the best way to explain it is on this other side right here. We're saying that this is a company right here, X. It deals with the extraction. This is probably maybe, say, the land that we are saying, or the rocky areas like that. It goes and extracts. It extracts the gold from where it is actually from the gold mines there. Once it extracts gold from the gold mines like that, how investors can seek exposure towards commodities is by investing in the shares of this company. Investing in the shares of this company will mean what? That if this company has floated shares on the exchange like this, investors over here, this is the exchange, that investors can come over here and consider and seek exposure towards the exchange, and now the shares have actually been floated like this to investors. So investors over here, including institutional investors, can be able to buy the shares of this company that has listed the shares on the exchange, and by extension, investors can be able to seek exposure towards commodities. So buying the shares of a company that directly deals with extraction of the commodity, or buying the shares of a company that deals in, say, the growing of crops, or maybe growing of wheat, barley, like that, then provides exposure towards investing in commodities like that. That is the way how you can be. You have not used any form of derivative instrument there. You're just using equity investments, so that you can be able to seek exposure. If the prices of gold increases, the prices of the shares of this company also increases like that by extension. The third way, right over here, come on this side. Third way, number three, we are saying exchange traded funds. It's actually right over here. This is the third way of how you can be able to seek exposure like that. This is exchange traded funds, ETFs. Exchange traded funds. Now we are saying under exchange traded funds is where an exchange can come up with a fund here that concentrates on commodities. So investors can decide to invest in that fund. So these are dealing with commodities. It could be dealing with wheat, it could be dealing with copper, it could also be dealing with maybe barley and hops and something like that. So if you invest in that fund, then you somewhat indirectly seek exposure towards commodities. So those are the three ways how investors can seek exposure towards commodities. Very interesting, and we should be able to also have this kind of exchange or this kind of methods. We should be able to have a commodities market here in Kenya. Since we are agricultural based in Kenya, we should, or particularly maybe in the larger Africa, we should be able to have an exchange that deals with commodities. Now we look at this final subsection here that talks about futures return components. Futures return components. Return components. Now, the futures return components, or how do you earn a return when you have invested in futures, is very important, so that we can be able to see whether the pros and cons provide significant benefit of investing in futures. So we are saying the first method right over here is the spot return. That is one of the return components in futures. So spot return, we are saying, reflects changes in spot prices. Changes in spot prices, we can say of commodities, a commodity, due to demand and supply forces. So if the spot return changes from, say, 500 shillings to, say, 517, that is a spot return.
Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to get yourself a copy of our professionally prepared study text and revision partners. Visit our shop along Tom Boyer Street, Pioneer House, 3rd floor, opposite Fire Station.